What's up guys, it's Gone, and today I'll be giving out one trade for every MLB team before the start of the 2025 MLB season. Even though we're just over a month until pitchers and catchers report, and many huge deals have already been done like the Cody Bellinger, Devin Williams trades, a lot still needs to be done for a lot of teams. There are still free agents that need to be signed, contracts that need to be fleshed out, and for the purposes of this video, pieces that need to be moved. I made a video similar to this one in July with my trade deadline video, however, I think that this one will be more intriguing. Unlike during the trade deadline when the vast majority of teams could either be lumped into a buyer or seller category, many teams are in a system of retooling right now, or simply moving pieces around for the sake of improving either this season or for more sustainable improvements in the future. No matter how bad, everyone's got some playoff hopes at this time. Nobody is eliminated yet, so this gives me more freedom with these trades for some creative interpretations of how I think each team could significantly improve either their current roster or bolster their long-term output by capitalizing on a current value for future prospect returns on investments. But before we get on to this video, could you guys please hit the like and subscribe button? Currently, only 3% of people who watch my videos are subscribed, so if y'all do, not only would help me grow my channel, but it also would encourage me to create more videos like this one for you guys. Without further ado, let's get on to the video. Starting in alphabetical order, we have the Arizona Diamondbacks, and while the main trade piece left is Jordan Montgomery and that hefty contract, I'll save that segment for another team actually receiving Montgomery. Instead, I'll focus on the bullpen and how the Diamondbacks must replace what they lost when their planned closer Paul Sewell lost his job during the 2024 season and subsequently left in free agency. The Diamondbacks are all in for 2025 when they signed Corbin Burnes to the richest contract in franchise history. And while that is for 6 years, Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, and Josh Naylor are all free agents after the season, making it likely that the Diamondbacks will be aggressive in the trade market. This is where I have them getting one of the best closers in the game in Ryan Helsley. Because he's on the last year of his contract, the Cardinals are looking to move on from him and retool, and the Diamondbacks can get an elite closer who led the NL in saves with a 2.02 ERA. In my trade, the Diamondbacks give up a young 24-year-old starter in Gilbert Diaz, who impressed with a 3.81 ERA in 7 games last year. Diaz right now may be a mid to back end starter, but with a fastball that touches 99 and a nasty slider and curveball, he has top of the rotation upside for a Cardinals team looking to get younger and more cost efficient. While the Athletics are in no way contenders yet in the American League, they are beginning to show encouraging signs of breaking out of this rebuild, led by some headliners in free agency, Luis Severino and Gio Urshela, and a trade with the Rays for Jeffrey Springs. This team is beginning to get aggressive, and for a team that played .500 ball following the All-Star break, moves like these are exactly what can bolster a team still looking to find stars. Springs was a great buy low candidate, as the now 32-year-old southpaw was one of the best pitchers in baseball in 2022, but has been offset with injuries for the past couple of seasons. But I think that the Athletics can make another one of these buy low trades involving the lineup this time with Brett Baty. There were talks with another NL East team currently involving the Athletics for Alec Bohm, but those talks fell through since the asking price was too high. For Brett Baty though, the price will be much lower and the upside still great, as a former top prospect who raked in the minor leagues and showed signs of improvement in 2024. In my trade, the A's send over 25-year-old Gunnar Hoglund and 23-year-old catcher Daniel Susick. Both are former first-round picks and are on the older side in terms of prospects, meaning that they probably could slot in as depth pieces right away for the Mets with years of control remaining. Despite a quiet offseason relatively, the Braves have already been retooling after trading Jorge Soler and signing Brian De La Cruz. However, they need to look at the starting rotation and fill out the back end after Sale, Lopez, and Schollenbach. They don't need to spend a ton, as Strider should come back sometime this season, and they have a bevy of other young starters that could all rise to take spots of their own as soon as spring training, such as Harrelson Waldrop, Bryce Elder, Ian Anderson, or AJ Smith-Shawver. However, to prepare for absolute worst-case scenario, a veteran innings eater should be traded for, preferably a reclamation project with some upside. In that case, Jordan Montgomery makes a ton of sense for the Braves, who look to work to reclaim his career like they did with Chris Sale. Montgomery struggled a ton last year and his contract does look bleak. However, Montgomery brought the Rangers to a World Series win just a year prior in 2023 and was one of the premier free agents that offseason. Additionally, the more money that the Braves eat, the less the trade will cost in terms of prospect returns. In my trade, I have the Diamondbacks sending over Montgomery, plus $5 million in cash for the 20-year-old righty Garrett Baumann. While not highly touted, Baumann posted a 3.18 ERA across single A and high A, and is a big starter at 6'8", so the Diamondbacks don't lose Montgomery for nothing and get some financial relief. Next up, the O's are in an interesting spot. They just lost their ace in Corbin Burnes in free agency, and so far have acquired 2 middle-of-the-rotation starters in Tomoyuki Sagano and Charlie Morton to fill in their place, banking on internal improvements to fill in the void left from Corbin Burnes. However, for a team that clearly wants to win it all, especially in the daunting AL East, this rotation will simply not cut it, and an ace still needs to be acquired. This is where I could see a trade involving Mariners starter Luis Castillo being dealt to the Orioles for minor league outfielders Dylan Beaver and Judd Fabian. Castillo did take a step back this year, but he still pitched to a 3.64 ERA and nearly a strikeout per inning. With consistent experience as an ace of the staff, Castillo fits perfectly with the Orioles, and for the Mariners, Castillo off the books gives the Mariners increased financial flexibility to add to their lineup, while also getting two talented hitting prospects in Beavers and Fabian, with Beavers probably sliding into the outfield DH role very soon for them, and Fabian potentially providing some untapped power upside in the minor leagues initially. There's a lot of rumors that Nolan Arenado is to be traded this offseason, and for the Boston Red Sox, this could be perfect considering their need for a right-handed slug. Defensively, Arenado still got it over at the hot corner, meaning that Devers, who still has been a pretty poor defender over there, gets to move over to first base, whereas Bat should still play. The Red Sox defense as a whole gets a lot better, and there's potential for an Arenado bounce-back season offensively as well, making the trade much more tantalizing. In my trade, I have the Cardinals mainly doing this for cost control reasons, so I have Arenado being sent over to the Red Sox along with $10 to $15 million of the $52 million left on his deal, to the Red Sox for utility infielder Blaze Jordan and flamethrowing reliever Luis Guerrero. Jordan, at 22 years old in Double-A, is a decent prospect but really needs to tap more into his power to become an MLB caliber player, while Luis Guerrero, with a triple-digit fastball, has closer potential and impressed in a 10-inning sample size last year. The Cubs have been really busy this offseason, trading a pretty big haul for one of the best outfielders in the game in Kyle Tucker, as well as trading Cody Bellinger to the Yankees and a flurry of other moves. While the Eli Morgan and Caleb Delbar moves helped shore up the bullpen that was pretty shaky in 2024, they are not closers, and for a team that wants to play for a playoff spot in 2025, a back-end arm should be acquired, whether in free agency like with Tanner Scott or Kirby Yates, or via trade, and for the sake of this video, we'll explore the trade options. Emmanuel Clase is an interesting pick here. The Guardians have shown that they are willing to retool, but does this include Clase, who will still be under contract for the next 4 seasons? Obviously, it will have to take a huge package to trade for him, but the Cubs have one of the best farm systems in all of baseball, and if any team could and would make the trade, it would be them. In my blockbuster deal, I have the Guardians capitalizing off of Clase's success to net a huge haul of Kevin Alcantara, James Triantos, Michael Arias, and Brandon Birdswell. For the Guardians, the return is massive. Alcantara and Triantos are 2 of the top infield prospects in baseball, and Arias is a nice relief pitching prospect, and Birdswell is a solid right-handed starter. A great trade for both sides in my opinion, as the Guardians get what they want and a huge prospect in return, while the Cubs get their closer for the next 4 years. And as for the White Sox, I covered what they should do extensively in my video dedicated to them, but to sum it all up, I believe at this moment reclamation projects and veterans to mentor the young talent are the way to go for this point in their offseason. Veterans have already been acquired via free agency, so let's look for another buy low candidate to grab for some upside. Nolan Gorman here would be a great fit for them. As an infielder with tremendous slug, he not only was one of the top prospects in all of baseball a couple of years ago, but a huge fit for the White Sox right now, and potentially down the line, as he's under contract through the 2028 season. Gorman hasn't ever fully broke out, and his 2024 season was a step back in all regards, hitting under .210 and being sent down to AAA in the process. That being said, the power-hitting second basemen like him are very hard to find, and for a relatively cheap price, he can provide immense upside if this all pans out. In my trade, I have the White Sox sending over 2 left-handed pitching prospects in 25-year-old Kai Busch and 18-year-old Blake Larson, dealing from a position of organizational strength to acquire the 24-year-old Gorman. The Cincinnati Reds are in an interesting spot considering how the 2024 season was supposed to be the breakout year for them, but they ultimately fell short, largely due to a ton of injuries and underperformances. A lot still needs to be done to improve this team, and I could see them making several moves both on free agency and the trade market in order to set this team up for a run in 2025. However, the one trade I can see most is for an outfielder/DH type role. This is where I could see Red Sox DH Masataka Yoshida be in play for the Reds, who have a fairly young team under cost control and have the money to spend on Yoshida if the Red Sox sends him over in return. In my trade, I have Masataka Yoshida, along with 20 of the $57 million left he's due, in return for utility player Cooper Bowman. The Red Sox main value here comes from the money off the books rather than the prospect return, but Bowman could be a solid piece that can balance out the Red Sox lineup being more right-handed. Next up, the Guardians have been retooling this offseason, and while that can be effective at long-term success, this is the same team that won 92 games in the AL Central Crown. More acquisitions need to be done, especially in the outfield and DH positions, which, outside of Steven Kwan and the occasional David Fry, were very unproductive this season offensively. Sticking with their long-term retooling plan while also getting a quality player, Wilyer Abreu could be the perfect fit as a quality outfielder who is also very young and cost-controlled at only 25. For a Red Sox team looking to become more balanced offensively, especially getting some right-handed bats, a package including Big Christmas could be enough to get it done. In my package, I have two Major League right-handed bats in Lane Thomas and Gronkowski Noel, as well as a top prospect in Angel Henao in the deal. This is a pretty good package for the Red Sox with major and minor league benefits, but it hurts trading one of the breakout young budding stars in Wilyer Abreu with so much cost control. But that makes sense considering the huge package that was sent back in return. At this point in the Rockies' rebuild, I really don't think that they should be trading for any major leaguers considering the fact that they're trying to grow their own farm system and let the young rookies play. However, the only trade I could really say yes to would be a buy low trade for a rental, or maybe a player with 2 years left of control, to hopefully sell high come the 2025 trade deadline or in the next offseason. It'll be tough to find a player like that and also have him complete the requisite bounce back in order to flip him for more than what was gone in return. But the bright side is that the Rockies have a ton of positions around the diamond in which a struggling player could be placed in to get consistent reps in to hone in on his craft. This is where Chas McCormick could be in play. The Astros have a bevy of outfielders, and McCormick struggled during the 2024 season to the tune of a 66 OPS+. The Rockies have a need in the outfield, and McCormick could gain some more confidence in the hitter-friendly confines that is Coors Field. With 2 years left on his deal and 30 years old, the Rockies could be getting a quality outfielder with some ability to either deal him or extend him. And in this trade, the Rockies would be sending over reliever Justin Lawrence and outfielder Benny Montgomery. So in a way, a buy low trade for both teams, as Lawrence has closer stuff but struggled in Coors Field, and Montgomery was a former highly touted prospect with great speed and defense, but struggled with injury in 2024. As for the Tigers, their 37-11 run to end the season with a wildcard spot was pretty impressive, and it highlighted their potential to a T. However, the subsequent offseason to capitalize off of that success to this point has been underwhelming. The Tigers have the farm system to get trade pieces, as well as have some up-and-coming prospects to contribute in huge ways like Jackson Jobe, Jace Young, Hao-Yu Lee, and others. However, they still probably need one more right-handed bat, preferably in the outfield, and this could be done via trade. Given the Cubs' crowded outfield now, this could put Seiya Suzuki on the block. Suzuki would be exactly what the Tigers need, as a right-handed outfield bat with both power and on-base abilities, contributing to a career-best 138 OPS+ in his third season. Suzuki also has 2 years left on his contract, so he is by no means a rental and fits better with the Tigers' long-term plans. In my trade, Seiya gets sent over for two pitchers in Ty Madden and Jaden Ham. Maybe an overpay slightly for the Tigers, but the market for outfield hitters like Seiya is pretty slim this year. And if the Cubs give some money back in this deal, then it very much is an even trade prospect-wise. And as for the Cubs, Madden slots in the back of the rotation as a depth option, and Jaden Ham is a talented 20-year-old starter with middle to high-end rotation upside. The Houston Astros' two biggest needs in this offseason in the corner infield positions have both already been fixed with Christian Walker and Isaac Paredes. However, this does leave the starting rotation with some holes after losing Justin Verlander and Yusei Kikuchi. Of course, this could be fixed with signing a free agent, but in this case, we'll explore some trade options. A Dylan Cease trade could be very interesting. On the last year of his deal, Cease would be a free agent after this season, but the Astros do have the capital to sign the hurler to an extension if talks get there. However, even without an extension, Cease could be the piece to capitalize off of some of the last years of what is left of this current core, and a nice ease into the next one as well. With Cease's raw talent and ability to miss bats, I would be intrigued to see what he would do in Houston. The price would be steep though for the A's, as the Astros send over two of their best and most MLB-ready prospects in infielders Bryce Matthews and Zach DeZenzo, as well as 22-year-old starter Ethan Pecco. For the Padres, Matthews and DeZenzo add much-needed upper-level depth to a farm system that's been depleted with trades over the years, and Ethan Pecco is a pitching prospect with more to prove as he establishes himself in Double-A. What was a busy offseason for the Royals last year has led to a quieter offseason this year, and for a surprise Royals team in 2024 looking to build upon it for 2025, the outfield does look a little lackluster, at least on paper. And this is what brings me to Taylor Ward, who adds more right-handed slug and surprisingly good outfield range for good defense in Kauffman's vast outfield. And although the Royals don't have the greatest farm system, they can make do by sending over a package consisting of Gavin Cross, Chandler Champlin, and Drew Beam. With 2 years left on his contract, Ward fits long-term on what the Royals are trying to do for their rebuild, and the Angels capitalize on major league contributors by getting 3 minor leaguers, with Gavin Cross and Javier Vaz soon to be major league ready themselves to join the major league team with increased service time. I'm going to be perfectly honest, I have no clue what the Angels are doing. Every year they seem to be perfectly content with a 70-ish win team, with low odds of surpassing that total thanks to an aging roster and minimal relative prospect talent. This year they're doing the same thing, signing Kikuchi to a 3-year deal, trading for Soler, and signing DeArnold and Newman as well. If I was the general manager, I would begin to get a lot younger, opening up spots for young players to see what core emerges from these prospects. There's some talent here with Neto, Shanuel, and soon-to-be Christian Moore in this lineup, and I think that I could add one more with Oswald Peraza from the Yankees. In the Yankees' crowded infield, Peraza is likely a bench bat for them if he can win the third base job, and the Angels could capitalize on this to give Peraza consistent playing time in the major leagues as a third baseman to showcase his former top prospect status. At only 24 years old, he still has a ton of room to grow, and he shouldn't cost too much either, costing them their 17th ranked prospect in 18-year-old catcher Juan Flores. For the Yankees, Flores is a power-hitting catcher with some upside, so at least some value is gained from this infield logjam. Switching over to a completely different situation, the Dodgers are another difficult team to make a trade for because they really don't have that many needs left. The lineup and rotation are pretty much overflowing at this point with talent, meaning that the only real need left to address is the bullpen, where you can never have too many quality arms. David Bednar would be an intriguing option in this spot. The Dodgers can work some of their pitching magic to potentially reclaim David Bednar's star status from 2021 to 2023, while the Pirates can get some value left with 2 years left of control and his reputation before he potentially becomes untradeable with another bad season in 2025. Basically, the Dodgers are in a very good position and can afford to take a gamble on a player like Bednar for the 2025 season with immense upside. Bednar's trade value is a little unclear considering his elite production and subsequent fast fall-off, but he's still a good relief pitcher in my eyes and has 2 years left of control, so I think that the Dodgers could get him for MLB-ready utility player Austin Gauthier and 20-year-old speedster Kendall George. Moving on to the Miami Marlins, they're in a very similar spot to teams like the Rockies, Angels, or White Sox. Get some younger reclamation projects that could turn into stars to either be traded for more than they got for, or to become a cornerstone in their own right. However, with Alcantara coming back, the Marlins actually have a pretty solid rotation. With some prospects coming up as well on the lineup side, they could achieve more wins than many people thought so. That being said, their main goal should still be development, and a trade for 26-year-old Alec Burleson could be another piece to play with. With 4 more years left on his contract, Burleson still fits the Marlins' timeline as a corner outfielder who has shown flashy tools of productivity but has yet to put it all together. And with the Cardinals trying to go younger, he could be on the move for a good package. In my trade, the Marlins trade a talented but ultimately expendable Dylan Head for Burleson. Head, at 20 years old, is a speedy center field prospect, but at only single A at the moment, there's a ton of time before he's ultimately MLB ready. And while I don't agree with trading prospects at this stage of the Marlins rebuild, the Marlins have a decent surplus of outfielders in their system, and if Burleson pans out to be a good player like the peripherals show, the Marlins could end up as huge winners from this trade. As for the Brewers, they're a pretty solid team. The only real need I see left for them is at the third base position, where maybe prospect Brock Wilken or utility man Oliver Dunn can play, but neither would be that exciting. Instead, while unlikely, a trade that could significantly improve the Brewers lineup would be for Rockies third baseman Ryan McMahon. McMahon would significantly boost the offense as the All-Star hit 20 home runs last year. Moreover, his defense at third is extremely good, and for a team that prides itself on its defense like the Brewers, McMahon would be a perfect fit. Budgetarily, however, McMahon is a different story, but maybe cash opens up in the future or the Rockies eat some for a bigger prospect return to make this trade go through. In my trade, I have McMahon plus some cash sent to the Brewers for 2 lower-level prospects and right-handed starter Josh Noth and infielder Eric Batanti. Both are 19 years older in the lower levels of the minor leagues, but they were both top 100 selections in the 2023 draft, so they do have some upside. With Carlos Santana gone, the Twins are now looking for a replacement at the first base position. Additionally, the Twins are a relatively young lineup and one of the top farm systems in all of baseball to be set up for success in 2025 and beyond. I could see a pretty big trade here to fix the first base position involving one Tristan Casas. If the Red Sox end up making a move for, say, Nolan Arenado, then Casas at that point becomes pretty expendable. But the former top prospect still has a ton of worth to other teams as a power-hitting lefty with a good eye at the plate. The Twins, with their farm system, could give the Red Sox what they want to trade him. In my trade, the Red Sox get top prospects Marco Rhea and Charlie Soto, as well as Zebby Matthews in this trade. The Red Sox get 3 young, talented pitchers in this deal, with Rhea and Matthews ready to play immediately and Soto just 18 years old. It's a lot, but for a potential young cornerstone piece at first base, it's certainly fair. For the New York Mets, they're clearly going for it, and from the lineup to rotation, they're all pretty solid. However, by adding Luis Arias, they could significantly boost the offense of this team, and given the budget, they also set themselves up for more value beyond 2025 with a possible extension. The Padres are trying to get some stuff back for departing stars, and the Mets could be benefactors of that, trading away pitchers Sean Reed-Foley and Blake Tidwell for the infielder. Jeff McNeil is currently the Mets' starting second baseman, but he struggled for them in the 2024 season and can work around as a utility player anyways. Arias could also just slot in at first base if nothing gets done about that as well. As for the Padres, Reed-Foley is a former top prospect who has had a good, albeit short season as a reliever for the Mets, and Tidwell is one of the Mets' better prospects. MLB ready at 23 with a mid to high 90s fastball and roughly a strikeout per inning at AA and AAA last season. Now for the Yankees, there's one clear spot left to fill, and that is at third base. I floated trading for Luis Rengifo during the trade deadline, but even now Luis Rengifo could be the solution for the Yankees at third base. With 1 year left on his contract making about $9 million, the Angels are looking to move off from him both so they can get something in return and for some financial freedom. The Yankees have the financial flexibility to acquire his contract and the further assets to extend him if he performs well in pinstripes. With 1 year left, he is affordable for being such a productive player. In my deal, I've been being sent over for young MLB-ready pitchers in Will Warren and Yoendrys Gomez. Right now, both of them are depth options but have upsides as mid-rotation starters and lethal secondary pitches from the right-handed side. If Luis Robert is going to get traded at some point during the offseason, my money would have to be on the Phillies. No team has the drive and need at the center field position like Philadelphia, who are staring down the barrel of a World Series window. With 3 more years left on his contract, albeit for a pretty steep price, Robert fits perfectly with the window of contention left with his club. And considering the Phillies' spending over the past couple of years, Robert's $50+ million salary over the next 3 years should be manageable, especially if another trade could be done for salary relief. This trade will be mainly for Robert though, seeing the Phillies send over their young center fielder of their own in Johan Rojas, as well as Dante Nori and Gabriel Rincones Jr. The White Sox get a serviceable center fielder of their own with 5 years left of control on his contract in Johan Rojas, plus 2 of the top 10 prospects in the Philly system, which should be enough to acquire the all-star center fielder. The Pirates are very close to seeing a contention window open up. Many experts believe that they may have one of the best rotations in the National League, and their hitting could be just enough to get them a playoff spot, especially in the weak NL Central. Even though they could use 1 or 2 more impact bats, I would refrain from making any drastic moves at this point in their rebuild. However, one small move that they could make that could make a huge difference could be trading for Mike Yastrzemski. On the last year of his deal, Yastrzemski wouldn't be a huge financial commitment long term, and he also wouldn't cost a ton in prospects. As a left-handed power threat, he also balances out the lineup a little bit more. I'm going over to the Pirates for 22-year-old outfield prospect Lonnie White. For the Giants, this is more about salary relief, as White struggled in high A but is extremely athletic and is also a good defender in center field. However, they could eat money in the deal for a better prospect return. Based on a rather poor farm system and a ton of expiring contracts, I've had the San Diego Padres selling some of their expiring contracts for prospects to replenish their organizational depth. That being said, this is still a quality team even if they traded the players mentioned before, and with AJ Preller having a history of surprising, bold moves, who's to say he doesn't retool on the fly? Well, blockbuster trade aside, I find it smarter for the Padres to use the season to find more building blocks, and by trading for former top prospect Leody Taveras, they could find another one. Taveras reminds me a lot of Profar, a switch-hitting outfielder with both decent contact and power, but has been inconsistent throughout his major league career. With 3 years left before he hits free agency, now's the time to pounce while his value is low after a poor 2025 season. And the Padres can get him without draining their already strained farm system by swapping him for 2 decent prospects in 23-year-old right-hander Francis Pena and 22-year-old first baseman Romeo Sanabria. The Mariners really need one thing and one thing only, and that is bats. With that rotation top down, they are squarely in the middle of things when it comes to competing for a playoff spot in the American League. Also, with a pretty good farm system, they can afford to be pretty aggressive for a bat without drastically altering their future. Resultantly, I've been getting probably the best bat on the market for this team in first baseman Yandy Diaz from the Tampa Bay Rays. Diaz is a great fit for the Mariners, who can switch pieces in and around the DH position to give consistent at-bats to those who are hitting well at the moment. Additionally, with the recent Randy Arozarena trade, these clubs have already had familiarity to make a deal. With 2 years left on Diaz's contract at an affordable rate, the Mariners pay up a decent prospect haul of underrated 20-year-old infielder Michael Arroyo and 19-year-old shortstop Ty Pete. This is a big haul for the Mariners as they give up 2 of their top 11 prospects from a very good farm system, but Yandy Diaz was one of the top players in the game just a year ago, and the Mariners are banking on a bounce back for the next 2 years. Switching back over to the National League for the Giants, they're in a kind of similar spot to the Padres and Mariners in that they're on that edge of postseason berth and are just squarely missing out on the playoffs. But I think that they have the mindset to be much more aggressive with a slightly better farm system and aging roster. If I had to pick one area of need for this Giants roster, it would have to be to take some more slug in their lineup, especially in the corner outfield or DH position. This is where I could see the Giants make an aggressive play for Nick Castellanos. In what is mostly a salary dump move for the Phillies, the Giants are more than willing to pick up a decent chunk of his salary for an impact bat in the middle of their lineup like Castellanos. They're also banking on a small bounce back to see some more extreme value. In my trade, Castellanos plus $12 million of the $40 million left on his contract over the next 2 years gets sent for Taylor Rogers and 20-year-old infielder Diego Velasquez. The Phillies shed salary and with the hopes of a bigger move, while also getting Rogers a decent bullpen arm and Velasquez a nice well-rounded prospect. While yes, I did have St. Louis trading many of their core pieces both as the Cardinals' main goal this season to get younger and to shed salary. This doesn't mean that they can't speculatively buy if they see a piece that can provide value for the future. And this is where I could see them trading for Tigers first baseman Spencer Torkelson. After losing Goldschmidt in free agency, the Cardinals are looking for a long-term first baseman. And for the Tigers, after moving Colt Keith over to first base, Tork's spot is now gone. The Cardinals could give opportunities to the former first overall pick that the Tigers are unable to give, where he could grow into a superstar that many people thought of him to be when he was selected back in 2020. Torkelson still has 4 years left of control on his contract and is still making pre-arbitration money, so finances are not that big of an issue. However, he still probably will cost a bit as the promise is there. In my trade, I have Torkelson being sent over to the Cardinals for reliever Jojo Romero and a 25-year-old light-hitting utility infielder in Cesar Prieto. The Tigers do get 2 MLB-ready contributors and a depth option out of Torkelson, while the Cardinals get a high upside piece and shed a little salary by trading Jojo Romero. What to do with the Tampa Bay Rays is a really good question. They always seem to be in a state of perpetual retooling, and due to roster overhaul, literally any position is up for grabs if they can find good value. Simply for his sake, I want to see what the Rays can do to Forrest Whitley if they acquire him from the Houston Astros. Way back when I first started this channel back in 2020, and really when I started getting into prospect coverage back in 2018, Whitley was one of the top pitching prospects in all of baseball, but never really seemed to pan out. That being said, he's 27 years old, so he should be in the prime of his career, and if the Rays can get something out of his career, I'd be really impressed. Right now, he has some value to the Astros as a relief arm, so the Rays can get it done by sending over a nice reliever of their own in lefty Garrett Cleavinger. For the Astros, this is more of a win-now move as Cleavinger is a great left-handed relief option, but they do lose out on 3 years of affordable young pitching in Whitley. The Texas Rangers are a very good team that has already made a couple of moves to get even better. The lineup is excellent, especially after adding Jake Berger and Jock Peterson, and the bullpen is revamped, adding Chris Martin, Robert Garcia, Jacob Webb, Sean Armstrong, and Hobie Miller, all to be middle to back end guys. This leaves the starting rotation, which while good in and of itself with guys like Eovaldi, John Gray, Cody Bradford, and the return of Jacob deGrom, it's not elite, and not without its potential flaws and lack of depth. Basically, one can never have too much starting pitching, leading to a potential trade for Eric Fetty, for Justin Foscue, Braylon Morrell, and Ezekiel Duran. For a lineup as deep as the Rangers lineup, giving up 2 depth pieces and a prospect is not that much in the grand scheme of things for this season, and this gives the rotation so much more depth and assurance given a negative outcome such as an injury or a setback in deGrom's recovery. Meanwhile, Duran and Foscue both make the Cardinals younger on the positional side, while also getting a lottery ticket type of prospect in Braylon Morrell. While the Blue Jays may not have the greatest farm system in the world, they certainly want to be aggressive this offseason and have the money to spend as well. Their lineup is actually pretty good, just filled with young prospects like Will Wagner and Joey Lopefito, who need to get more established in the lineup. And the rotation of Gausman, Brios, Francis, and Bassett are about as good of a top 4 as you can get in the league today. However, the bullpen could use a little bit of work. Getting Garcia back in the bullpen is pretty good, but a real closer is needed to help solidify this pen. And no, Chad Green and Nick Sandlin aren't cutting it. Instead, what about trading for Tampa Bay Rays closer Pete Fairbanks? He has 2 more years left of control on his contract, so he could be a valuable piece for the Blue Jays, both as their closer in 2025 and beyond. And while he is one of the nastiest pitchers in baseball, in my trade, I think that the Blue Jays could get him for left-handed starting pitcher Adam Macko and righty Landon Morales. In the grand scheme of an entire farm system, this is very little, but for the Rays, they get 2 young pitching prospects to develop in the Tampa Bay Rays system. Lastly, we have the Washington Nationals, who are very close to ending this rebuild if they can get a couple of things to break their way in the 2025 season, led by their lineup and top end of their rotation. However, one more piece to add would be another bullpen arm, especially if the closer position if they don't end up re-signing Kyle Finnegan or another one of these relief options in free agency. If that's the case, maybe Ryan Pesley could be the answer over in Washington. Making $14 million on the last year of his contract, the Astros would be primarily moving him in the form of a salary dump. However, $14 million is pretty close, if not less than the amount of money it would take to sign another option, especially if the Astros eat some of the money. Additionally, it shouldn't cost too much in terms of prospects, which is exactly what the Nationals should do as they near the end of their rebuild. In my trade, the Astros send over Presley, plus 6 of the $14 million left on his deal for Jackson Rutledge. Rutledge, a former first-round pick, does have some strikeout potential, but at the moment does not have a place on the roster, and could be moved for a relief pitcher of Presley's caliber for Washington. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, if you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe, and comment down below new video ideas. Also, comment down below if you would like to see more of these trade videos as we get to the MLB trade deadline. These videos do take more work than my individual player trade videos, but I have a lot of fun making individual trades for both teams, because sometimes there are teams that are like selling and they don't have these players that I make videos on or are not buying. So let me know if you think of this video format, and I'll see you guys in the next one. God bless.